Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and for Patreon, happy Halloween. For everybody else, it's the week after. So I thought about dressing up for Halloween and doing cosplay, but I couldn't find an eye patch. I wanted to dress up as Hua Cheng. I have a red jacket I could have wore, but I tried on a wig. I looked more like Qi Rong than I did Hua Cheng, and I couldn't find an eye patch, so what do we do? But I decided instead, I wore this to work today and it was green. And I was like, we are reading chapters about our trash king. So green seemed pretty fitting. So the trick for trick or treat is that I didn't dress up for today. So sorry about that. But there are two treats that I want to talk about before we start the comments, before we get into these chapters 51 through 53. The first treat is that I've been told, I'm recording this on October 26th because I'm going to be out of town this weekend and I need to record early to have this out by Monday on Patreon. And so I've been told that on actual Halloween, which would be today when it's premiering, that there's going to be some kind of special announcement, maybe about the Donghua, if there's a preview or some information. So the good news is that next week, if that is the case, next week, we will be able to talk about that. So I'm really excited. So that'll be great. The other news is that I recently hit a subscriber goal on YouTube. There was a poll to replace Yona of the Dawn, which is a series I'm reacting to, and the top two contenders were Monster and Word of Honor. And unfortunately, Word of Honor did not make it by just a few votes, which was very frustrating. It'll make it at one point, I'm pretty sure. But to kind of make up for that, for my subscriber goal, there is a maybe Donghua Donmai movie that I might watch for it. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes peeled, and I'll have that out as soon as I can. But I'm pretty excited about that. But let's talk about comments. We also have a new Manhua chapter. Chapter 84 is out. I'm pretty excited about it. I've also been told, as far as Modao Zushi goes, that the manhwa is officially ended unless they decide to animate or illustrate the extra chapters. So my goal over in November is to be able to go back and react to all those chapters. So lots of things with MXTX and Donmai happening. It's crazy. So let's talk about comments, because chapter 46 through 47, 48 through 50 had quite a bit of comments about them, and I want to talk about them with y'all. Ivan is Ida. I'm talking about Xie Lian's, his loss of sword, speaking of Modao Zushi, is kind of similar to Wei Wuxian's loss of his sword in Modao Zushi. Although, Wei Wuxian, but again, both Wei Wuxian and Xie Lian kind of let go of their sword for different reasons, but they did abandon them. So I think that's a cool connection between those two characters. That was really good to point out. Millie talks about Qi Rong and how Qi Rong, the salt on the corpses, and Ghostly Turnip kind of talked about this too, could maybe be to preserve the corpses, like preserving meat. This is like the Oregon Trail, except Qi Rong is giving everyone dysentery instead of dying from it. So yeah, that's pretty disgusting. I was like, awesome. Good on you, Qi Rong. Gross. But Ghostly Turnip also added that there's also this big irony that you have, Qi Rong has this big elaborate dinner table with these fancy golden utensils and jade pieces, and he's eating people. So it's this kind of disgusting contradiction, right? Qi Rong, he is truly a trash king. When y'all told me he was a trash king, I was like, oh yeah, I can see that. But now it's like, no, he is a trash king for sure, with capital T, capital K. Keon Fong talked about, though, there's lots of comments about Mu Qing, which I want to talk about, which I guess relates back to chapters 46 and 47. Keon Fong talks about how Mu Qing could not, I forgot about this part. This was back in volume 1 where Nan Fong and Fu Yao were talking about this. But the idea that Mu Qing couldn't stand his statues being ugly, and he would go into his believers' dreams to tell them to redo them and make them better. And I was like, oh, Mu Qing's kind of a salty wench. Just a wee bit, right? So I thought that was pretty funny. And then Juliet says that Mu Qing kind of is like a cat, and amongst the fandom has earned the name Meow Qing. It was like, Meow Qing is kind of funny. He definitely reads like a cat, right? He's like that cat. If you've ever had a cat before, that cats just do their things on their own terms. They don't appease you like a dog. A cat's like, I'll let you pet me when I'm good and ready, and otherwise stay away. And that's kind of like the Mu Qing vibes I get, which is pretty funny. And then H. Yang talks about how the translation is kind of odd with the term weird. And I know some people in the Discord were saying that there's not really a good word to describe it. But H. Yang said that maybe the term dripping with sarcasm fits Muqing better than weird. And I was like, okay, I can see that. I definitely can see that. Sparata talked about how Feng Xin noted that Xie Lian, whenever Xie Lian disappeared with Hua Cheng, Feng Xin in the communication array was like, oh no, Xie Lian's been kidnapped. And Muqing was like, oh, Xie Lian escaped. So there's two different meanings of that. On the one hand, as my dog hacks up a lung, on the one hand, you have Feng Xin who's trying to save face for Xie Lian, saying, oh, it wasn't his fault, he was kidnapped. And then you have Muqing who's like, no, Xie Lian left with Hua Cheng of his own accord. Which is it? Well, you could argue it's both. So that's kind of the funny thing about it. Xie Lian did leave with Hua Cheng, didn't fight back, but he definitely didn't plan it. So it's kind of both Feng Xin and Muqing are right, which maybe that's the point. We'll see. And then Merov L talked about how black could be a symbolism of wisdom in terms of Xie Lian being dressed up as the Fengxian Goshi. But also it kind of connects to Banyu, where Banyu is dressed up in black robes as well. So maybe it's a Goshi thing. But in addition, the mask keeps Xie Lian from being recognized, because Xie Lian, even though it had been 500 years, maybe there was somebody that would recognize him as looking like the god of Xianle, and he was like, I don't want people to like ask questions, so he kept it on. It's just highly convenient now that that Qi Rong is wearing the exact same mask. So funny that, or a mask that looks similar. Kix K pointed out that Muqing may not be afraid of crocodiles. It could just be that Muqing rolled the dice, and like at Paradise Manor, it just happened to send them to a place with crocodiles. So maybe that's the case. That could be it. But also, yeah, talking about the statues being made for Xie Lian that were just of him like kneeling and being, prostrated before. Kix K comments saying like, are we surprised at the lengths that human hatred will go? And it's like, just when you think that you've seen it all, you get surprised again, right? So funny that. And then finally, SQQLBH314 talked about how some different things, that Lan QianQiu is a Bodawong doll, which is like a little roly-poly toy. So it reminds me of a Daruma, but it originally was used at banquets. Funny enough. It's funny that Lan QianQiu was turned into a toy that was used at a banquet when we've associated him with a banquet, and particularly the one that his parents died at. So funny that. But it was used at banquets, and you spun it around, and whoever it stopped upon, that person had to finish their drink and then spin it again to another person, which sounds like a pretty cool party game. I'm not gonna lie. Would probably do that. And Hua Cheng was just like, Xie Lian, we got a party game going if we want to. Lan QianQiu's gonna help you. But Xie Lian doesn't drink, so what do we do with that? And then over time, it became a children's toy. It kind of got reappropriated from an adult drinking game to a children's toy, which is interesting. And then finally, Xie Lian's temple, according to SQQLBH314, it's translated in the novel as meaning 8,000 crown princes, which could be a reference that there were 8,000 temples that Xie Lian had dedicated to him by his family when he first ascended. Which I think is funny, because wasn't it the case that Hua Cheng destroyed 8,000 temples like within a night for all those gods and deities? Funny that those numbers might add up. Funny those numbers might match a little bit. Who knows, right? Who knows? But yeah, so we're going to go over chapters 51 through 53. I'm really excited. We have a Manhua chapter to talk about as well. And then next week, if we do have a Donghua announcement, then we'll talk about it with chapters 54 and 55 is what I have down for next week. So, and then there won't be a Manhua chapter, so sad days. But I am pretty excited to dive into this and see what all we get. But, yeah, so let's not waste any more time. Qi Rong face slammed in the ground, his mask come off, and he looks like Xie Lian. So what do we do with that? I have no expectations at this point, because I thought I had everything planned out in the last episode. I'm like, oh, I know what's going to happen. And then it went 360 degrees the opposite direction I thought it was going to. So we'll see. But we are going to start chapters 51 through 53 of Heaven Official's Blessing. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Chapter 51, Truth or Deception? Difficult to discern. Ooh, okay. Oh, well, that's the biggest fake out. What? Says when the mask fell and Qi Rong's entire face was revealed, it became obvious that he didn't look much like Xie Lian after all. MXTX, you saucy minx. The noses, lips, and contours of the lower jaws were similar in shape, but their brows and eyes were quite different. Xie Lian's eyes were calm and peaceful. Qi Rong's brows were high and sharp, and his eyes were also much more thin and slanted. He was certainly still a good-looking young man, but anyone could see just from his face that he wasn't one to be messed with. Ah. Ooh. Oh. Xie Lian, are you all right? Don't be angry. Please don't be angry. Everything's fine. Just calm down. Everything's fine. He gently rubbed Hua Cheng's shoulders a few times. His voice became soothingly soft. When Xie Lian was younger, whenever he got angry or upset, his parents would always stroke his back like this and comfort him with their gentle voices. Thus, he used the same method on Hua Cheng. Turns out it was quite effective. Hua Cheng's eyes were turbulent before, but after being soothed, his lips quivered for a second. But slowly and finally calmed, his eyes cleared once more. Oh. Xie Lian let out a breath of relief, but suddenly, even before he finished exhaling, Hua Cheng swiftly reached out a hand and gently patted his shoulder once. This pat instantly froze Xie Lian's body and rooted him to where he stood. Oh no! Oh! He was worried he might lose control again. He could not move, he could not speak. Oh no! Hua Cheng's like, thanks for that, but oh no! Qi Rong! Oh my god! He may have been weak in fistfights, but his mouth was tough. He started cursing covered in blood. You crazy one-eyed snake! Did I piss you off while eating in my own house? Oh my god! Well, there's like 3 F-bombs in there, but I'm not repeating them. Oh my god! But no, Hua Cheng wants to know, how did Prince Xianle die? What does that have to do with you? Oh, and he's like, Xie Lian is good cop and Hua Cheng is bad cop. There's no denying that. Oh my god. And so he just keeps bashing his face in while asking the same question. How did he die? Oh, like dribbling his head like a basketball. Oh my god. Like just over 10 times. Oh, but he couldn't die. And because he couldn't die, it was insufferable. Oh. Why don't you go read an effing history book? Why would I come ask trash like you? It's QianQiu. He was killed by Lan QianQiu. And the Daruma doll in his arm started shaking vigorously. Oh, it fell to the ground, madly spinning back and forth. And he undid the spell. Oh! He had never been wronged like this his entire life. How could you insult me like this, smear my name? Xianle and I were friends. Who did you say killed him? Oh, Qi Rong's like, you're QianQiu? Why the F are you here too? Qi Rong, for Qi Rong's credit, Qi Rong's like, I was just sitting down, cooking up some people, gonna have a nice, wholesome family-style meal, and y'all just burst in asking if I killed someone. How do I remember? Oh my god! Oh my god! Ah! Prince Xianle died of illness, so why would you accuse me of killing him? Oh. Died of an effing illness, only you would believe it. He died soon after the gilded banquet, so he must have been assassinated by you lot. If not you, then those old withering men in the court. Oh. No wonder everyone says the green ghost Qi Rong is vulgar and crass. Now that I've met you, you are indeed disgusting. Oh. His offhand comment stabbed Qi Rong exactly where it hurt. After becoming famous for so many centuries, all of heaven and hell taunted him for being boorish and crude, and he hated it. His face dropped immediately. I may be vulgar, but it's still better than your ignorance. Friends this, friends that, power of Nakama, meh meh meh. What peaceful relationship? Xianle and Yongin can be friends? Coexistence and peace? You're as fake as your shitty parents. Disgusting. Oh. You're all nothing more than the descendants of some rebels Who gave you the effing right? What sincerity? To donate titles and land to us, the people of Xianle. Yeah, he's from Xianle. Shameless. You robbed what was ours and then handed it back like some sort of gift. Everything you owned had belonged to Xianle. Oh. And he felt a rush of satisfaction because QianQiu doesn't have anything to say to it. Even if you guys killed Anle, it was a profitable death. Xianle lost but one man, but young and paid an entire gilded banquet. Too bad we couldn't kill you too, and have you taste what it's like to end an entire bloodline. Oh, what did you say? And Xie Lian mentally cursed. Why did Xie Lian want this out? Why did he want it? Because it sounds like Qi Rong's responsible for this. So why did Xie Lian not want this out? He desperately wanted to bash Qi Rong back into the ground the same way Hua Cheng did and shut him up. But he couldn't move a muscle. What do you mean you couldn't kill me too? Okay. Oh, so Qi Rong is saying that he's like, who would be friendly with the royalty of Yang? And it was to infiltrate your guard to make it easy to plot and wash your gilded birthday banquet with blood. So Qi Rong suggested that they planned from the start to like get close to the family and then kill them all. Xie Lian was struggling to break free and QianQiu was frozen to the spot. After a moment, he stammered that the Prince Anle and the Guoxi were on the same side. And Lan QianQiu was filled with anguish, thinking that his beloved teacher and friend had conspired against him together. However, contrarily, Qi Rong said, Guoxi, that wicked Guoxi Fengshin, who the hell is on the same side as him? Oh! You heard the question was baffled. You washed the gilded banquet with blood, but the one to do so, was it not the Guoxi? Were you both not on the same side? Who the F knows where that evil cultivator came from? It had nothing to do with him. Listen up, QianQiu. The blood spilt at your young and gilded banquet was all done by the people of Xianle. Anle had already planned to kill off every single rebel at the banquet. But that weirdo Guoxi of yours suddenly busted in. Anle had thought the plans failed and ran to me for help, asking me what to do if he was discovered. But who knew that very night it would be announced the one who screwed everything was Guoxi? And he became a wanted man across the entire kingdom. Why didn't you speak up? Are you dumb? Why would I say anything? Was it a bad thing to have someone take the blame? Can you level me up to a supreme with this lie? Oh! Yo, I get it. You couldn't believe it, right? I heard you nailed your own teacher to a coffin. What an idiot. You killed the wrong person. Oh, you're wrong. If that was true, even if you didn't say anything, why didn't you? Who is that? What? Are you all here to have a party? Are you all here to have an effing party in my cave? Oh, if you didn't do it, if you didn't kill, then why did you admit to the guilt? And just then he became loose. Hua Cheng undid it to hear what he's going to say. Oh, working out the kinks in his wrists and joints. Complete nonsense. Oh. Complete nonsense. Says who? Says I. Oh. All this fibbing and these empty words. What proof do you have that the ones who spilt blood at the gilded banquet were the descendants of Xianle? All the killed are dead, so what proof? Besides, it's been hundreds of years. What proof is left? Which is why I say this is all complete nonsense. Xianle and Yang'an are dynasties of the past, long lost to time. Is there any point in you stirring up trouble with nothing more than bits of history? Oh, is Qi Rong remembering him? I killed your father. You saw it with your own eyes. This was during a time soon after my second banishment. Okay! I was filled with frustration and caused a great wrong. This is all my fault. There's no need to drag anyone else down with me. This man is full of deception. Dragging the Prince Anle's name through the mud was only to avenge himself of your comment on his vulgarity. If any bystander was to listen on to this conversation, they'd find it hilarious. A fight for the title to the true culprit of a murder case. One would think blood spilling at the gilded banquet was some glorious deed. That's right, it was you. And no one else. He had seen with his own eyes that night he ran to the gilded palace excitedly, only to see the black-clad Guoxi pull out a thin, long sword from the chest of his father. splattering blood everywhere at that moment. His father, the king of Yong'an, had stretched out his hand towards him, still breathing. And after that, he had rushed over. That hand was dropped limply. Just then, Qi Rong, who was lying on the ground, suddenly spoke up. "Cousin Crown Prince, is that you?" Are they related? Are they related? They look similar, so are they related? Oh my gosh, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. Ah! Oh my gosh, okay. Truth or deception, difficult to discern too. Oh. It looks like you've been living colorfully these past few years. Hua Cheng removed his fake skin. Qi Rong's eyes widened as each of the three intruders revealed themselves. QianQiu was bewildered. Cousin? Even if earlier, when he heard Qi Rong say, "us Xianle," he guessed the identity of the green ghost's past life was a citizen of the kingdom of Xianle, but he hadn't imagined that he and Xie Lian were actually related on a personal level. Qi Rong stared at Xie Lian's face and looked him up and down. It was a gaze hungry with curiosity and fascination. When his eyes stopped at the sword Feng Shin on Xie Lian's back, he suddenly burst out laughing. So that's it! Feng Shin was you! You were Feng Shin! Although he couldn't understand why he was laughing, QianQiu's guts told him it wasn't anything appropriate. What's so funny? I'm laughing at my good old cousin. What's it to you? He bit back in a fit. Just now I said my lord's stupidity spanned hundreds of years. I'm sorry, I apologize. The best way to learn is to learn from the best. Look at your master. No wonder you're so effing stupid. You went to Yong'an and became their Goshi and ended up stabbed to death by your own disciple. Is that not exciting? Is that not hilarious? You deserved it. Making a fool of yourself. The moment he uttered the word fool, Hua Cheng smashed his head down violently. Oh! Seeing Xie Lian made him 10 times more excited than usual. A fool, a fool, a fool! And each time he said it, Hua Cheng smashed his head down again. It was a bloody scene. And Xie Lian stopped the hand that was about to strike again. San Long, let it go. Why should I? He said sharply. It's nothing. Don't let it get to you. He is mental and extremely troublesome. I can take care of him. Just sit back and ignore him. Oh. He gently rubbed Hua Cheng's shoulder, and it was a long time before Hua Cheng finally replied in a low voice, "Fine." Oh my god. That's how he calms him down. Oh, why play pretend with your false kindness? I stopped him because I didn't want him to dirty his hands. Did you misunderstand something? Ooh. Cousin Crown Prince, you're getting along pretty well with Hua Cheng. And here I was just wondering why none of the underlings this little brother of yours sent to greet you on Zongyang ever returned. It was because they ran to Hua Cheng. This little brother of yours. Oh, so the night of the Ghost Festival, the ghosts that were sent to go find him, they were sent by Qi Rong. Okay. It was a coincidence it seemed it was a coincidence to have bumped into him. Oh, okay. And he stole a glance over at Hua Cheng like, oh, you saved me that night. Okay. Calling him San Long, tisk, 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 so familiar. You're a big shot heavenly official. How can you hang out with ghosts and demons? Aren't you worried about your reputation? You're so perfect after all, so pure and flawless. Your halo shines upon us all on this earth. Oh. Many in the heavenly court had more or less thought the way Mu Qing spoke was sarcastic, but if they were to listen and compare, they would learn what sarcasm truly is. Truly, they had wronged Mu Qing. Oh, okay, ooh. He's like, oh, cousin Crown Prince, this little brother had constantly thought of you over the years. I even meticulously carved a statue to keep you by my side, so I can gaze up at your heroic form every waking moment of every day. What do you think? It's pretty well done, right? Do you like it? Don't worry, if you don't like it, even better, I'll carve more. Oh, Hua Cheng's face darkened. Ooh, if Xie Lian hadn't held him back! Now it's the cat meme, but it's Hua Cheng and Xie Lian, and there's Mu Qing like, ah! Except instead of the cat, it's like a gremlin, like sitting there. Oh my god. Oh, Xie Lian knew the kind of person Qi Rong was. He was a little mad in the head, and the more extreme the reaction, the more excited he got, and the more outrageous he became. Reverse psychology was the most effective, so Xie Lian smiled faintly. It's only all right. Sorry, but the craftsmanship is kind of low class. Oh my god, Xie Lian! Oh my gosh. If it wasn't for my past affections and me carving you a couple statues, who would even worship you? You probably sniveled and whined at Junwoo's feet and hugged till your knees busted in order to ascend this time. Oh. Even a 200-year-old as Cindy can walk all over you. You're pretty much 800 years old, but only got so far. What a failure. I am quite the failure, not like cousin, already a savage after 800 years. He knew how to put him down. Oh. Hua Cheng snorted and his face darkened. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I just ascended, but you can't even become a supreme after 800 years. So, yeah, they're around the same age. This stance, did you beg Hua Cheng to mess with me today to settle our differences? Oh. And yeah, that's what it looks like. Look at you all. The moment I say anything bad about you, wow, look how mad he gets. Was he blinded by that holy light from your halo? Oh, was he already blind in one eye? Oh, no! Oh, his cheek exploded in agony. Oh! It was from Xie Lian. Oh! Just because I've never hit you before in the past doesn't mean I would never hit you. Oh, don't you insult him! Oh my god! His fist was faster than the eye could see, and he said just coldly, the punch was a solid one, and it was a long while before Qi Rong could make any sounds. Oh my gosh. Cousin Count Prince, you hit me. You actually hit me. Heavens, our noble, kind, compassionate, charitable Crown Prince, who's scared of stepping on even a small ant, actually got pissed and swung a fist. He's hitting people. Incredible. Amazing. Oh my gosh. Lan QianQiu! Is he crazy? You don't miss a pass, do you? Don't miss a pitch, do you, Lan QianQiu? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, you've heard it. He's insane. His heart and mind are imbalanced, so nothing he said is believable. Oh, he was used to seeing his madness. Don't be so quick to tell people I'm psycho. Let me ask, how did Prince Xianle die? Oh, and now he's asking Xie Lian. His heart cold and he couldn't immediately respond. However, Qi Rong on the other hand slowly pulled himself up and sat while leaning on the kneeling statue. After Xianle died, I cut open his corpse to inspect it, and all of his organs were pulverized by the vibrations of an exceedingly powerful sword, which is why he didn't have any external injuries, but couldn't stop hacking up blood. There was something no regular swordsman could do. I thought the Yongans had brought in some strange hitman as to frame Xianle's death as an illness, but now that I think about it, there's another person who could do this, and it's none other than my good old cousin, defender of justice. After all, our flower-crowned martial god, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, is a holy, pure, one and only snow-white lotus of the heavenly mountains. Oh, and Hua Cheng stomped on him! Oh! Shut up, just tell me what you know. Who's the real murderer? What happened at the Gilda's banquet? And what happened to Prince Xianle? What the hell happened? QianQiu, why are you still confused? Even I pretty much figured out what had happened. Looks like you really don't understand the kind of person your master is. Come, let me dissect the good old cousin for you. This former Crown Prince of Xianle went and became Yong'an's Goshi, taught you swordsmanship for 5 years. Oh. And then QianQiu stopped him, let him finish. You know he's insane, yet you still listen to his mad conjecture. Fengshen was swung, and even though it was a slender blade, its shockwave almost made Lan QianQiu loosen his grip on his longsword. But then a curved blade knocked Fengshen, hooked it up and pulled it aside. Oh! San Long! Qi Rong saw how much Xie Lian didn't want him to speak, and how desperately he didn't want QianQiu to hear the story, so Qi Rong had to do the opposite and grabbed this chance. Prince Xianle was a good Xianle boy, very obedient. He heeded my instructions to be false friends with you, but your master bumped into us cleaning out the Yong'an rat nest at the Gilded Banquet, so Xianle escaped. You got to the gilded banquet, saw what happened, and the Goshi Fangxin became the most wanted man in the kingdom. This was the previous story, not a word, a lie. Oh. But Hua Cheng stopping him, he didn't say a single word and continued to block him. The more Xie Lian wanted to charge over, the faster his lips moved. This saintly cousin of mine, when he saw with his own eyes the people of Xianle committing murder, he must have thought, how can this be? That's not right. So he went to find Prince Anle to educate him a little, but when he sought him out, oh my God, what did he discover? Anle's major plot. It wasn't only just assassinating some thugs. There was no way cousin could educate him, so he hardened his heart and killed the last blood of our royal house with his own hands. Afterwards you caught your master, nailed him dead in that coffin, and so in my cousin's magnificent life as Goshi. Cousin, am I wrong? And he spat the blood at the statue. I know you too well. You love doing shit like this. Ancestors above, look at what a good descendant you gave birth to. Not only has Xianle, Xian clan lost everything, even the bloodline is cut. Xie Lian, you ominous star, you god of misfortune. Your existence is Xianle's greatest tragedy. Why won't you die? How do you even have the face to keep living? But I saw with my own eyes he killed my father with this sword. How do you explain that? If it's not water getting into your effing senior's eyes and ruining your sight, I can only think of one reason, which is that Anle for sure stabbed your old man, but he didn't die. Did he drive the blow home? What are you saying? My good cousin's such a kind soul. How could he drive any attacks home? When he arrived, he wouldn't have attacked right away. He'd have little to show for himself for saving some poor guy first. Your old man probably killed himself. What do you mean killed himself? What's the first thing someone saved from the brink of murder will do? After seeing somebody massacred at the gilded banquet, what's your first reaction? Find the murderer. Wrong! After my good cousin saved your old man and revived his breath, he would have said, quick, Goshi, it was the Prince Anle who did it. Go and kill Prince Anle. No, not just that. He must have said something worse, like, Goshi, bring forth Shanshu, call upon everyone. I want the entire population of Xianle wiped out. I want to bury them all with the dead. Oh. He was growing paler by the minute. Even if he wasn't killed on the spot, your old hag had an entire nest of thug relatives that were all killed before him. He'd have to open fire on the people of Xianle sooner or later. Your good master realized this, considered his options, and decided no, the old man couldn't be saved, so plurk! And the old man goes cold. That's the kind of person my good cousin is. A saint who can't have sand in his eyes, always doing stuff that harms others and hurts himself. He wanted to please both sides, but succeeded with neither. Oh shit, oh my God. Whiteboard Coon! We got one more chapter. Oh my gosh. Okay. Truth or deception. Difficult to discern 3. Qi Rong, you shut your mouth! Oh, Xie Lian! Oh, why does he have to shut up? Oh, are you lying to me? Don't listen to it. Of course it's all a lie. You're so stupid. If not you, then who else do we deceive? If not for some rando spoiling our plans, Xianle would have already taken your effing life at the age of 12 instead of giving you luxury to grow up and ascend. 12? The biggest thing that happened when he was 12 was that kidnapping, saved by Xie Lian. That year, the muggers who intruded the palace to kidnap me were sent by the people of Xianle? Duh! Did you think any ordinary assassins can just kidnap the crown prince from hundreds of royal guards? I was the one who helped Anle on that. Helped, so my friends are all fake. The people of Xianle never cared for our amity. Your Prince Anle would never possess any good intentions and instead came for our lives. So everything you told me was false too. Come, hurry and let me hear what my saintly cousin told you. We're but one nation at their roots. And whatever conflict the royals had with each other had nothing to do with the civilians. Both sides used to be one family under our generation's rule. There could be changes for the better. As long as the people were happy, it didn't matter what the royal house was named. But both sides could let go of their grudge and unite in time. All that was false. Nonsense, bullshit, lies. This is what he didn't want to hear the most. No, it's not false. Think, under your rule, weren't there real changes? Didn't you do really well? Didn't the remnant citizens of Xianle integrate peacefully with the people of Yong'an? There were fewer and fewer conflicts and riots, so how could any of it have been false? Oh, QianQiu crying, no! What about my parents? Them uniting was their greatest wish. That's why they granted the princely title Anle to the rest of your royal bloodline. Their wish came true, but what of their end? What a whiny crybaby, just like my saintly cousin once upon a time. You came crying for your old man, old hag. I haven't even effing harassed your ancestors for my old man. Oh! That was what pretty words. Oh, you think I can't tell it means you young and dogs want to walk all over their heads of Xianle for the rest of our lives? Stop your madness! Oh my god! You're the mastermind behind the massacre of my clan, and you're part of the plot behind the Gilded Banquet too? Yes, I'm part of it. Anle was part of it too, and your master, us three, people of Xianle, all had our part. And his person was sliced in two! Oh! Oh, it's an exceedingly gory scene! It doesn't hurt one bit! Compared to that punch from Cousin Crown Prince, you're nothing! Oh! Still spouting insults. Something was off about QianQiu's expression. Qi Rong, stop talking if you value your life. Oh. Xie Lian had always treated others with kind respect, yet Qi Rong was someone that couldn't be faced normally. He knew this, so every time he faced him, Xie Lian didn't want to be polite at all and unconsciously became rude himself. Oh my god, to the cauldron! Oh! Oh, do you usually use this cauldron to cook humans? Yeah, so? Oh my god! Oh, you just put him in the cauldron! Oh! Oh my god! QianQiu! What? How many people has the green ghost Qi Rong eaten? We can't teach him what it feels like to be cooked. He's the enemy that murdered my clan. Am I not allowed to make him suffer? Of course he could. So Xie Lian couldn't say anything. Yet no matter as the crown prince of a mortal kingdom or the martial god of the east of the heaven, Lan QianQiu had never done such a thing as this. He had always been straightforward in fights and never used any cruelty. These actions were far from the QianQiu that Xie Lian knew. Oh. When Qi Rong is fished up, his body no longer retained a human shape. Instead, it resembled a melted lump of skin and flesh, bones poking out in some areas, terrifying to behold. Yet he seemed quite pleased and was still guffawing. Look at your good disciple. His wings have hardened. He's cruel and knows how to torture now. Oh. Oh. Even his bones were dissolved. Only remnants of some green cloth emerged on the surface. Oh, he called out Qi Rong. His younger cousin, who once upon a time couldn't shut up about his cousin, the Crown Prince, had idolized him and praised him for everything he did. However, after the fall of Xianle, he had turned into a complete madman. He led the burning of his temples, the desecration of his palaces, and commissioned the kneeling Crown Prince statues everywhere, affixing them as thresholds. To make Xie Lian suffer, he could do anything. Xie Lian had done his best to put up with that behavior, and if it involved others, he did his best to obstruct, until finally, when he could no longer tolerate it, he could only keep away in practice, out of sight, out of mind. Oh, and he thought that Qi Rong had passed away. Who knew after all this time he would suddenly meet a figure of the past and see the face that so much resembled his. Oh, he couldn't tell if they were feelings of nostalgia or remorse. After all, the only ones left from the royal house of Xianle were the two of them. But they hadn't seen each other for that long before he died. They hadn't seen each other for that long before he had died before him, and he was even cruelly killed by QianQiu, who couldn't even use wooden rods to punish. So much had happened in such a short period of time. Oh. And QianQiu stood next to the cauldron with his head lowered, unspeaking. Just then Hua Cheng spoke up. He didn't die. He's not dead yet! You don't think this is actually revenge. You only killed one of his many clones. If you want to exterminate him completely, you need to find his ashes. That's right! Thanks for reminding me! Oh! Goshi, don't you dare think about running away. And he struck the cauldron. Oh. Oh, and the liquid filled with slivers of bones poured onto the ground. Hua Cheng, he just found out the truth. So it's better to let him be by himself and cool down. Why must he know the truth? Was the truth that important? Very important. He needed to know what was done by you and what wasn't, and why you had to do what you did. What's the use of knowing everything so clearly? Would I be any more blameless if I killed less people? Would things be less hard? Oh, a burst of anger rolled up from Xie Lian's chest, and he didn't even know who to be mad at. And what shitty hardship have I experienced? His Majesty the King Father had always wanted to integrate the two clans. Did I not kill him? Xianle was the last to my family's bloodline. Did I not kill him? No matter what, it's all my fault. So if all the blame goes to me, what's wrong with that? What's there to be afraid of? Whatever comes at me, I can't die anyway. I did this. I bring misfortune. And now I've brought it to Prince Xianle, to Qi Rong, and to even everyone in Xianle. Is it not better to hate one instead of all? Must he think that everything I taught him was false and nothing more than empty bullshit? Covered his face with his hands. I've gone mad. I'm sorry. It's nothing. It's my fault. This is my problem. Oh, he slumped to the ground on his head. What a disastrous mess. You weren't wrong. The Yong'an king was killed to protect the remaining people of Xianle. Prince Xianle was killed to prevent the two clans from fighting. In the end, to die at the hands of QianQiu, the murdered faced justice. 3 lives exchanged for centuries of peace. It's worth it. If it was me, I would have done the same. Listen to me. You weren't wrong. No one could have done it better than you. I just don't think it's right. I just don't think it's right for someone to have been kind, but still received a bad end. I don't think it should have ended up this way. Even if it's fake, I wanted QianQiu to remember that his benevolence to Xianle would be reciprocated. Doing the right thing will open endless paths. Not like now, where he thinks everything I told him, everything he believed in were false, all lies and deception, that everything was bullshit. I just don't want to see anyone go through what I've gone through. Oh. He felt self-conscious about the vulgar words he used and apologized again. I'm sorry. Look how incredibly silly things are in the world. The first few generations of Yong'an's rule were completely filled with violence and cruelty, but none died tragically. When it came to QianQiu's parents, all they wanted was to do some good, something great, and it ended the way that it did. I really can't forget the look on his face when my sword penetrated him. Forget about it. That was Qi Rong and Prince Xianle's fault. And everything was going just fine, too. Oh, the people of Xianle and the people of Yong'an finally experienced peace among each other for the first time. There were finally winds of change, finally signs of integration, finally a hope for leaving conflict behind. And Xianle had to pick that time to wash the gilded banquet with blood. That night when he escaped and found Xianle, he was originally going to warn him to never start trouble again. Yet after the last descendant of his royal house discovered his true identity, he excitedly grabbed a hold of him and asked him to join his grand scheme of revenge and recovery of their kingdom. His eyes were so red with passion and his voice so high with excitement it made one's hair stand on end. First he swore to spill blood at the gilded banquet, then to annihilate QianQiu, and then cause havoc in Yong'an. They would do this even at the cost of destroying the growing amity amongst the two peoples, and at the cost of all the lives that remained from Xianle. As long as they could drag all of Yong'an royalty and commoners alike to the depths of hell, they would not hesitate. But in the end, what was killed was killed. What was murdered. However compelling the reason, the truth was they killed with his own hands. An honorable king who truly wanted to eradicate discrimination and the last blood descendant of his family in this world. So, he deserved all the blame. Okay. I'm gonna go check out that Manhua chapter and I'll be right back. So So, yeah. Well, we learned a lot in these chapters. Why? We're only on volume 2. Oh my God. So yeah. So the funny thing is, my internet has gone out, which is tragic. And so I am not going to be sure. I'm going to try. If my internet is working tomorrow, I will maybe, I don't know. That's the problem. The problem is my internet's not working. And so I looked up and read the chapter of Manhua on my phone. And so because the internet wasn't working, I was like, oh, I'll just send myself the screenshots that I found from it. And now the internet's not working, so I can't get on my internet. So luckily I had the digital version of the book downloaded so I could record this reaction. But I'll talk about the Manhua, but I don't know if there will be images on either side. But the Manhua chapter, I do like that picture of Hua Cheng and Xie Lian looking like a sheep and a wolf. Good job, Star Ember. What I do like about this chapter is that the artwork of Xie Lian and the Windmaster look glorious. It's basically them falling down into the worm pit. That's really all that happens in the chapter. Although, if you do get a chance, I'll probably post these in the Discord because I can get on the Discord on my phone, and there'll be some of them up on Twitter. But I really like the hair of the Windmaster as in the disguise is all floofy and has the little buns on top. It's really, really cute. I like it. I like the little artwork of them like sitting together next to each other, Xie Lian and the Windmaster. And the chibis are adorable. Star Ember's little chibis, the Windmaster, with the cheeky grin as they roll the dice. It's really cute. Star Ember shows off that they can draw hands. Good on you. And then, yeah, it shows them falling into the pit. And I just like that it's really, really cute. And there's like even this little one that kind of makes them look like cats. It's really fun. It's great. And then, of course, the Windmaster is just like, I hate this. And they're running from the worm. And that's pretty much the Manhua chapter. So, again, nice, very cute, very cute. But this chapter, these set of chapters, we're slowly getting more and more into Xie Lian's character and why he does the things that he does, which I like. I like that at this point we're halfway through volume 2 of this big arc story. We're like still in the first third of the book, if you can believe it. We're still in the first third of the series, but we are starting to get more Xie Lian's character and why he does the things that he does. Xie Lian is a glutton for punishment. He is a glutton for punishment and thinks he can take on all the blame and all of the guilt and he can handle it so that other people don't have to. And Hua Cheng's like, yeah, that's really admirable and that's nice, but you don't need to suffer. That's the big thing, is that Xie Lian's like, I'll take this all on my own. Don't worry. I can take all the blame for everyone. And then no one else has to suffer for it. And Hua Cheng's like, yeah, but what about you? Hua Cheng, I'm actually glad that Hua Cheng held Xie Lian back and was like, no, let Qi Rong say his piece. Because that's the thing too. Xie Lian says that Qi Rong is like a lunatic and mad, but he's psychotic, but he's not an idiot, and he may be unbalanced, but he's not necessarily a liar. And a lot of things that he said ended up being true. And so that's kind of the fun thing about it, is that Xie Lian was trying to like shield Lan QianQiu from the truth. Like, you can't handle the truth. And it's not really that Lan QianQiu couldn't handle it, but Xie Lian has been tainted and jaded by the truth, by realizing all these things. And he was trying to protect Lan QianQiu from becoming like him. And then it felt like Batman. It felt like the Dark Knight for a second. I felt like Xie Lian was Batman and Qi Rong was the Joker and Lan QianQiu was Harvey Dent. I felt, if you've ever seen the Dark Knight, the movie, I felt like the Joker was like, we're gonna bring Harvey Dent down to our level. Like, Qi Rong has Xie Lian and Xie Lian knows Qi Rong, and they're both like jaded and tainted and corrupted kind of. But Xie Lian has kind of overcome that by taking on all this burden by himself. But Lan QianQiu is this innocent summer sweet bean, and Qi Rong's like, we're going to bring him down to our level, down to the reality of things. And Xie Lian was trying to keep that from happening. And in the end it happens. And it's like, and Hua Cheng's kind of, though, like, it's bittersweet to see QianQiu like torture Qi Rong, because that's, not him. That's not how he was. But Hua Cheng seems to be like, no, people need to know the truth. The truth needs to get out, and you need to quit taking on the burden of everyone else. He's like, QianQiu needs to know the truth. He has a right. It's his parents' death. He has a right to know. And what QianQiu does after it is his own decision. But you don't need to shelter that burden all on your own to protect him. I think Hua Cheng's like, no, you don't need to do that. The only person that ends up suffering is you. And Hua Cheng's like, that's not fair. And so it makes sense. Hua Cheng loves Xie Lian. And he's like, I don't want you to suffer for it. But Xie Lian, being the sweet summer bean that he is, I took a lot of notes. there's a lot to talk about in this chapter. So of course Whiteboard Queen has to come out. Of course it does. But we get more on the timeline. We get more Qi Rong. Qi Rong and Xie Lian are related. They're cousins. What? Ding, 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 ding. It's great. And it's very interesting. The timeline is making more sense. Okay. And we got a crumb on the second ascension. A minute crumb that I will latch onto like a feral pigeon. Ready to go. So when they first started out chapter 51, they were like, well, Qi Rong doesn't look exactly like Xie Lian. And I was like, what was this cliffhanger, MXTX? What was the point? For a second, I thought that Qi Rong and Xie Lian not looking exactly alike was going to be like, oh, it was just a red herring. It was just a cliffhanger for no reason. Luckily, we find out that it wasn't for no reason. They are related. They just don't look identical. They just look similar, which makes the whole mask thing rather interesting, right? Which makes that rather interesting but now we know that the mask that Qi Rong's wearing, it wasn't because of the Goshi. He didn't even know that Xie Lian was the Goshi. It was because of the Crowned Prince. Because Qi Rong, while he was alive, idolized his cousin Xie Lian. He idolized him and loved him. And then when things went south because of the White Calamity, and now it makes more sense why Qi Rong doesn't talk about the White Calamity. We don't talk about the White Calamity. We don't talk about Bai Wanshu Wu Sheng. So it all makes more sense. So let's do the timeline again. All right, so we have 800 years ago. Around 800 years ago, we have the kingdom of Xianle. And we have Xie Lian. And we have Qi Rong, who are cousins. All right, so we have all that goes down. And then the White Calamity comes in and things all go to hell, right? And so we had the first ascension here, A1 steak sauce. We have the first demotion there, all right? And then we have, in this 500 years that we still don't know much about, what we do know is that within those 500 years, way towards the end of the 500 years, so not, the thing of it is, Xie Lian says that it was after his second demotion. He doesn't say how long after. So there is a little bit of a, during this 500 years, we know that the second ascension happened, and we know that the second demotion happens. Now, the question is, was it like 30 years before he found QianQiu? Was it like 3 months? We don't know that, and I don't want to know the answer because as we're finding out, MXTX is giving us more and more info as we go. But we know that the second ascension happened within these 500 years, probably closer to this time period. Probably closer to there, which is interesting. So that suggests that like 500 years passed of Xie Lian just wallowing in despair. Awesome. Great, as far as we know. And then we have the 300-year mark from a while back, and that's where he meets Lan QianQiu. But while all this is going on, coincidentally enough, while all this is happening, Yongin has overtaken Xianle, and Qi Rong has hooked up with Anle, who is the last remaining bloodline from their family, from Xie Lian's family. He's the last remaining bloodline, and he met the Qi Rong, who was a ghost at this time. Makes sense. And so then 5 years pass, which makes sense too, because Qi Rong knew like Shang-Chi for 10 years, and she was already starting to do damage, right? So he don't waste no time. Qi Rong does not waste any time getting things organized. So within that time, that's when the banquet happened. And we find out that Anle and Qi Rong were planning on doing a massive rebellion during this, and Xie Lian stepped in to stop it. Okay, that all makes sense. And then from there, we know that 100 years pass, and then we have Banyu, and we'll talk about that and Xie Lian's whole goal there. And then we know that that was 200 years ago, and now we're in the present. Okay, and then we know somewhere like 50 years back, Hua Cheng, he stomped out Qi Rong and went out looking for him, and then he's rebuilt his thing. So we're getting more and more and more with the timeline. Slowly but surely. It's a lot of fun. And so, yeah. Qi Rong does not look like Xie Lian. Hua Cheng, again, I went back right before starting this reaction and reread the last chapter, because I like to do that. I like to reread the last chapter before I start to kind of refresh my memory, because it's usually been a week. And so Hua Cheng, he was pretty feral in the last chapter, in chapter 50. And honestly, I don't know how the Donghua is going to do some of this, because there's like being smashed to a bloody pulp and like being sliced in half. I'm like, I don't think the Donghua is going to do that. So that is kind of the one sad thing, is like, I don't think the Donghua is going to be as gory as these chapters were, because these chapters were extremely gory, very gory. I don't think that's going to do that. So, but Hua Cheng was like a feral beast. He was so mad at Qi Rong, which is curious. It's interesting that Hua Cheng loses control a little bit when it comes to Xie Lian and Qi Rong like wronging him so much. But then when it comes time for Qi Rong to spill the truth, Hua Cheng is able to control and hold Xie Lian back. So it's interesting, that dynamic. But yeah, so Xie Lian, what does he think to do to calm Hua Cheng down? Why don't I give him a back massage? He's like, well, when I felt stressed, someone gave me a shoulder and back massage, and it made me feel good. So I bet he'd like the same thing. And again, Xie Lian, here's the thing. Xie Lian is putting the hands on Hua Cheng, right? He just doesn't realize what that does to Hua Cheng, because Xie Lian's like, let me give you a massage, and Hua Cheng's like, I don't know what to do with my body, my ghostly body. And so it's like, it's very Wei Wuxian-esque, where it's like you're just egging it on and not realizing you're egging it on, right? It's kind of one of those scenarios. But I'm gonna put Xie Lian right here and Hua Cheng right here. Yeah, so the massage is used to calm him. Okay. Used to calm him down. But Hua Cheng is not phased. He's like, Hua Cheng sees the writing on the wall and sees that Xie Lian is constantly running away or trying to diffuse the situation. And Xie Lian has a good reason, but instead he's like, nah, we ain't doing this no more. And he freezes Xie Lian, making it to where he can't move. He's like, mm-mm. Which that says something, that Hua Cheng is powerful enough to make Xie Lian stop. So Hua Cheng is clearly, in my mind at this point, other than maybe Junwu, Hua Cheng is the most powerful being in this universe. Good thing he likes our protagonist. Good thing he's on board with it. But Xie Lian is trying his best to avoid any conflict. He is trying to be as non-confrontational as possible in all this. He's like, nah, we just need to save the people and go. And Hua Cheng's like, I came here to bring QianQiu here, this naive summer child, and show him the truth, have it come out Qi Rong's mouth, and let's just get this over with. He's like, I'm tired. Now, that does beg the question. Did Hua Cheng know that Xie Lian and Qi Rong were related? Did he know that? I think he did. I think he knew they were related. How did he know that? So that's the question too. Like, how does he know? Hua Cheng, he knows things, right? But again, he spent the last 800 years, in my mind, my headcanon is that he's been spending these last 800 years piecing together all of the truths so that he can help Xie Lian clear his name and get back to his former glory. That's what I think Hua Cheng's trying to do. He's trying to do his bow a solid. And I think that he probably, in his discovery, because Qi Rong didn't change his name, he kept it the same name because he's kind of crazy, as Lan QianQiu put it. he was like, well, I can put 2 and 2 together. I'm pretty smart. I'm going to guess that this is probably the same guy that was around that was related to Xie Lian. Go figure. And Xie Lian just, had thought that why would somebody keep that name? But they did. So that's interesting. So yeah, he just keeps him from moving, and at first Qi Rong blames Lan QianQiu for killing him. And Lan QianQiu's like, what the heck, no. He said, but in a roundabout way, it kind of is the fault of Lan QianQiu and his family that Anla died. So that's kind of the weird thing, right? In a roundabout way, Qi Rong didn't quite tell a lie. He kind of did tell the truth. Okay, but he is Xie Lian's cousin. All right. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, Qi Rong, and I love that Hua Cheng turns Lan QianQiu back into a doll, back into a human when he's like sitting there shaking as a doll. And I love that Qi Rong is just like, what is happening? I just love how unsure Qi Rong's like, I was just sitting here having a normal Wednesday night. And then these 3 people showed up and suddenly I'm a murderer and I'm getting interrogated. What's going on? I like that Qi Rong's like, when did this happen? Why no? Who gave these people the invite to come to my house? And so they say that Anla died of an illness. That was what was going. And I do kind of agree with Qi Rong when he's like, you're an idiot if you think that was the case. He's like, oh, you sweet summer child. No. That's not what happened. And so as soon as Qi Rong started talking about Xianle, I'm like, okay, he's from there. He's really proud of it. That makes sense why he would want the family dead, because they're from Yong'an, who overtook Xianle. He's a nationalist and he's wanting to get revenge. Makes perfect sense. And now it seems like Hua Cheng figured out the whole thing with Anla like before this mission even started. And so I feel that's kind of the curious thing. The big question in all of this is, did Hua Cheng intend from the start to go to Qi Rong's lair with Xie Lian, or did he not fully decide upon that until QianQiu came and chased after them? Because I have a feeling that Hua Cheng, he's known about this stuff with Qi Rong for a while, and maybe that is the big question. Was he going to take Xie Lian to Qi Rong anyway? Or once QianQiu showed up and he was like, you're annoying and you still think Xie Lian's responsible for all this and you need to have a little truth bomb given to you. So let's take a detour on this date and go and see. What a weird date. Hua Cheng's just like, you want to go see your cousin who's like a savage ghost and eats people and is actually partially responsible for all your woes? Let's go! And we'll teach your friend along the way the truths and the reality of the situation. So it's like, what the hell? But here's the thing. Qi Rong, he is proud of his blood, and he hates being called crass and vulgar. That's kind of the weird contradiction of it all. He does not revel in being called disgusting. He hates it. But he intentionally is revolting and disgusting. So it's almost like one of two things. Either he's been called a monster so long that he finally just accepted it. He doesn't like it, but he accepted it and was like, fine, you want me to be a monster? I'll be a monster. You call me to be crass and vulgar? I'll be crass and vulgar. I don't like it, but I'll do it. So there's that aspect of it. But then also he's trying to be a supreme. And he makes that comment to Lan QianQiu that he's like, oh, well, these actions, like, they aren't going to make me a supreme, are they? And so a part of me thinks that he just kind of goes with it. One, because at this point he's just accepted that he's a monster, but he hates it. But two, he wants to be a supreme. And so in order to do that, he's like, well, if I gotta be a bad bitch to do it, then I guess I'll do it. So Qi Rong's character is rather interesting. I like that he's a trash king. He's vulgar and crass and disgusting, but there are layers to him. And I like that. I like MXTX didn't just make this Daddy Jin revolting character, that there's more to him than that, right? So interesting. And so he makes the comment of saying, well, we should have killed you too that night. And as soon as he said that, Xie Lian's like, no! I've been trying to keep this from... Because Xie Lian's dug himself into a hole. He's backed himself into a corner. Xie Lian's like, if it comes out that I'm a liar, then Lan QianQiu's not going to trust me anymore. And all of my good intentions, no good deed goes unpunished. He's like, all my good intentions are going to go out in the wash if he finds out the truth. And it's like, Xie Lian, you shouldn't have lied to begin with. But he had a reason for doing it, right? And so Qi Rong, he says that Xianle was trying to like get rid of QianQiu's family. They'd been planning it. Him and Qi Rong had been planning it for a while. And so they had been working. So he says that Xianle and him were working for the rebellion. He's like, we were loyal people of Xianle, and he does make a pretty good point. There's an interesting point in there, as twisted as it is, and it's funny because MXTX kind of shows how three sides in this ordeal, three sides kind of have a stake in all of this. Qi Rong's saying, he's like, our people were subjugated by you all and taken over by you all. He's like, you took our lands, you colonized us, you took everything from us, but then you were just like, oh, we'll gift you all your titles back. He's like, it was ours to begin with. You took it from us, and then you gave it to us as gifts as if we should be thankful to you. So his anger is kind of justified. He's like, yeah, we were colonized by you all, by your family, and then your family decided to be nice to us, but he's like, yeah, if you're going to be nice to us, give us our country back. But you didn't do that. Instead, you just said that it was a gift to us when it was really ours from the start. So you kind of get where Qi Rong's coming from. Now, granted, a bloody banquet a red wedding's not exactly the way to go about addressing that, but he does bring up a good point of why he would be angry and why the people of Xianle would not be happy about that situation. But Xie Lian brings up another good point saying, well, but because of QianQiu's family, things were starting to get better. And so if we just worked together and negotiated and knew our past and moved forward, maybe we could avoid all of that. And it just didn't work out. And Xie Lian struggling to break free from everything. What's interesting is, in all of this, I keep calling Qi Rong Muqing. Qi Rong never knew that Xie Lian was Feng Shen. He just thought that the Goshi was some evil cultivator, which is interesting. He didn't know that Xie Lian, his cousin, was there as the Goshi Feng Shen. And that kind of aligns with the last couple chapters where they were saying, well, no one knew what side the Goshi was on. So to Qi Rong, he's just like, he's just some evil cultivator that's like neutral. He's an anti-hero, don't like him. And so he's like that wicked Goshi side. No one knows where he came from. And he talks about Xianle plotting to kill everyone at the banquet, but Feng Shen showed up and Feng Shen took the blame. So he took the fall for his kingdom. He took all the blame and did it to save them. And he said that Xianle ran off with Qi Rong thinking their plan had failed. So it is interesting that at the time, Qi Rong was able to be in both places because by this point he was a ghost. And he was helping out his descendant as a ghost, which is interesting. And then so he kind of just laughs at Lan QianQiu. He's like, you blamed the wrong person. You killed someone that was actually innocent. And Xie Lian's like, I was not innocent. He's like, I was very much a part of this just as much as you were. And I deserve to be killed. We'll talk about that later. But QianQiu saying, what? Are you all... so QianQiu turns to Xie Lian like, did everything you said at the Heavenly Court, like, was it all a lie too? And my favorite line out of all the chapters is Qi Rong being like, what? Are you all here just having an effing party in my cave? I just love that in the midst of all this, Qi Rong's like, I didn't ask for you all to come here. Did you all just come to have a party? What is happening? Like, I love how just baffled Qi Rong is. Like, what is this? What is happening? And so finally, Xie Lian gets released from the spell by Hua Cheng, and Xie Lian tries to gloss it over. He's like, look, the past, he says the past is over. He's like, let's just move forward. But it's like, Xie Lian, you can't forget the past. The past is still there. Like, you need to recognize it and move forward from it. And that's kind of what Xie Lian's trying to do. But there are a lot of cases Hua Cheng notes, he's like, you run away. You run away when things, you can run away when things get too much. And he's like, you don't need to be doing that. So he's like, it doesn't matter who did what. And he tells QianQiu that after his second banishment, he was in a dark place and he caused the banquet. He's like, I was frustrated. I was in a bad place. Wasn't in the right state of mind. And yeah, I got involved in this. And it was a bad idea. And I regret. But it was my fault. He's like, it was my fault. I caused the wrong out of frustration. And he's like, Qi Rong's just dragging Xianle through the mud. And he kind of lies. He's like, he tells it, he's like, oh, Qi Rong's just dragging him through the mud. Don't listen to him. And it's like, well, Qi Rong does exaggerate some things, and he has lied in the past. We know that. We know he is very capable of lying. But he kind of tells the truth in this instance, right? And so he basically says that he's just trying to make him feel better. He's like, he's dragging him through the mud and saying all these things because he called him vulgar and he wants to make himself feel better again. Which is true. And Qi Rong suddenly like, wait a minute, who are you? And then Hua Cheng takes off all their fake skins, reveals who they are, and Qi Rong's like, oh, my cousin crown prince. So, they're cousins from back during Xianle's time. And it's interesting because Qi Rong thinks that Xie Lian is the dumbest. Okay, I was like, what does my word say? He thinks Xie Lian's an idiot and kind of makes fun of him. But the interesting thing is that we find out that he idolized Xie Lian until Xianle's downfall. Which makes a lot of sense, because if Qi Rong is like a big nationalist person that's very proud of his people and his culture and his country, and of course Xie Lian would be this shining beacon of all that. He'd be like the epitome of his country, like this great martial god that represents Xianle, that is like worshipped by over 8,000 temples, of course. And then come to find out, as soon as Xianle fall, it was like his idol, his idolized individual just fell from grace and was like, oh, you're actually the reason of our downfall. Nope. And completely changed his tune and went kind of crazy. Because yeah, the person you admired was the cause of your entire world's downfall. And he goes crazy from it. So it's like, bleh. So yeah. So he basically is not happy. Xie Lian says that he can take care of Qi Rong. He's like, don't worry, Hua Cheng, I got this. I'm fine. He gives Hua Cheng the shoulder rub, and I love how Hua Cheng's kind of like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. He's like, fine. He's like, I'll let you have this. Okay. And Xie Lian, he says that Qi Rong is a little mad in the head. Okay. It's lightly putting it. And we find out that Qi Rong, he talks about how jealous he is of Xie Lian being perfect. He's like, oh, you're just so perfect. I'm so jealous. And he makes the statement that Hua Cheng is mad, but Xie Lian knows reverse psychology. Xie Lian's like, no. We don't need to fuel the fire. Qi Rong's one of these individuals that if you get him riled up, he just gets more riled up. You just need to be calm, cool, and just kind of insult him, and he'll tone it down, right? So he says avoid being taunted. And so Qi Rong's like, well, you know what? For somebody who ascended for 3 times over 800 years, you really aren't this shining beacon of hope. And Xie Lian's like, well, after 800 years, you're still savage and unsupreme. So like, they just dish it right back at each other. Very much like family. Like you can tell they're cousins. They just know how to dish it right back to one another. And it's totally fine. But yeah, Qi Rong, the part that he messes up on, and I'm amazed that Xie Lian punches Qi Rong. He punches Qi Rong on Hua Cheng's behalf. Because, yeah, he makes the comment, he's like, why? Because Qi Rong notices, he's like, why is Hua Cheng hanging around you? Why is the Ghost King with you? He's like, what's going on? And I'm wondering if Qi Rong knows about Jun Wu and Xie Lian, if we're going to get a thing with that in the future, because as we find out, Qi Rong's not dead. He's just been disposed of at the moment, right? But yeah, it's just he's elated to get under Xie Lian's skin because he's like, was Hua Cheng blinded by your halo of light around you? He's like, he's only got one eye to begin with, and at that point, Xie Lian's like, don't make fun of my man. You leave him out of this, and just punches the snot out of him. But Qi Rong, he is ecstatic. He's just so elated that he got under Xie Lian's skin. He's like, oh my god, you actually punched me. The great saint punched me. And at this point, when QianQiu goes, is he crazy? It's like just the way he phrases that in the book. He's like, is he crazy? And Xie Lian's like, yes. Like, do not listen to a word he says. Which again, Xie Lian was trying to protect Lan QianQiu by telling him not to listen to a word he says. He's like, he was trying to protect him and not have him listen to Qi Rong, and it horrifically backfires. But yeah, so Qi Rong, he's not pleased with the fact that Xie Lian calls him insane. He's not pleased with that. He doesn't like to be made fun of. He's like, no. And he tries to point out how Xie Lian was the one who killed Anla. He's like, well, if we're being honest, he's like, it wasn't an illness. It was actually Xie Lian that did it. And so he talks about the idea that at the banquet, Anla wanted to attack, but Xie Lian came in as Feng Xin and killed everyone. And the father, the thing about it is, the thing that's so crazy is that the father came to. He's not dead yet. He came to. And Xie Lian ended up killing the father right as QianQiu came in. And the thing that's so messed up about it is that Xie Lian, Qi Rong says, oh, he killed the dad because the dad wasn't dead and was going to blame Xianle for everything. He knew that Anla stabbed him and that it had been a rebellion. And so when he came to, he was going to blame all the Xianle people, and they were all going to be eradicated. And QianQiu is he's just befuddled because suddenly Qi Rong's words make sense, because he was like, yeah, after the bloodbath, all of the nobles wanted the people of Xianle to be punished and to be eradicated, but QianQiu stood up for them. Because he was like, no, it wasn't the people of Xianle. It was the Goshi Feng Xin who didn't have a side in this. He just went crazy and killed my family for unknown reasons, but I killed him, so we're fine. But now, QianQiu has just been dealt this dose of reality that no, it actually was it was Xianle people that killed your family. The people you defended were actually part of the reason that you were orphaned. And so his entire world and entire viewpoint is shattered. And Xie Lian is like, no, that's the last thing that I wanted. He's like, no, because him defending the Xianle people, like there was peace all those years afterwards, and now you've just ruined it. And Qi Rong's like, nah. There's like a little, there's been a little emote on the Discord that Ivan and I created of Qi Rong going, nah. That's exactly what this moment is, right? And he gets mad. Qi Rong, like Lan QianQiu, he gets mad because he's like, you lied to me. And Xie Lian's like, it's complicated, right? And so the funny thing about this, he realizes the nobles wanted just that, to destroy Xianle, and he prevented it. And so Feng Xin, he took the blame as a neutral party. And that fits Xie Lian to a T. He takes the blame as a third party. He didn't learn his lesson from Xianle because he tries to do the damn same thing at Banyu. He tried to do the same thing as General Hua. He came back after all the stuff that happened there. We still don't know. Okay, in these 100 years, I'm going to make a note. We don't know how he got out of the coffin. Well, that part is still unclear. That part's still a mystery. I'm assuming we're going to find out eventually. We're getting crumbs as we go. But the coffin part, the 100 years between the banquet and the Banyu arc, we don't know exactly what happened, but he got out of the coffin at some point. I'm assuming and became a scrap collector and became like a traveling like performer and everything and did all these other odd jobs. And then he met Banyu. And he tried to do the same thing. He tried to be a third party, being like, hey, let's not have any conflict. Come on, guys. It's fine. We'll just be fine. And then ends up getting stomped over, and then there ends up being conflict anyway. And he fails again, right? Which is just so sad, right? And so I love that. I actually love that Xie Lian, he's trying to stop Qi Rong from talking. He's like, stop, you madman, stop speaking. And Hua Cheng's like, no, it needs to come out. He's like, it's interesting because Hua Cheng, he hates Qi Rong. He hates how much he hates Xie Lian. He hates how disrespectful he is. But he's like, this needs to come out. We need to stop running away. Because Xie Lian, he runs away from his trauma. And you can't blame him. You can't blame him. Some bad stuff happens to Xie Lian, and he's like, I just need to leave. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but he's like, I just need to go. And Hua Cheng's like, you don't need to keep running away from everything. Nothing's going to get better. You're just going to keep getting lowlier and lowlier in the views of others if you don't just face up to the truth. And he's like, no, we need to tell people how things really were. And so he lets Qi Rong go off and keeps Xie Lian from running away. And I love this line that Qi Rong says. Qi Rong says that he's ashamed of Xie Lian. He says Xie Lian is a saint who does things that harms others and himself, and he wants to please both sides and succeeds in neither. Xie Lian does want to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to appease both sides and not have any conflict, but that's just, it's been proven to be not possible. And Xie Lian, how he phrases that there is that he's trying to take the blame as this neutral party, and he ends up harming others and himself. Yep. Which we definitely know to be true. He's very much hurting himself this entire time. And so Xie Lian, he says he stopped Anla and Qi Rong from killing Lan QianQiu at the age of 12. So we get that revelation that when Xie Lian first met Lan QianQiu, he actually stopped Qi Rong and Anla's people from killing QianQiu in the moment. Now, the question of, do I think that Xie Lian at the time knew that Anla and Qi Rong were responsible? I don't think so. I think he just saved Lan QianQiu and then stuck around. But he was the reason why they were stopped. And so Xie Lian's like had high hopes for Lan QianQiu's parents without knowing of Anla's plan. And QianQiu is just mad because he's like, you lied to me this whole time. He's like, you lied. And Xie Lian's like, it was to protect you. And QianQiu's not having it. Xie Lian tries to say that the good outweighs the bad in this situation. He's like, look what good happened. He's like, yes, I hid the truth from you, but because I did, look at what happened. The people were able to get along. There were less and less conflicts. You were able to maintain peace for such a long time. He's like, he's like, me taking the blame was fine because look at all the good it did. And QianQiu is like, it doesn't change the fact that my family's dead. And Xie Lian's like, well, no, but it's like, no. And so at that point, Qi Rong's like, yeah, it was all of us. The three of us were responsible. Myself, Xie Lian, and Anla, we were all responsible for the bloody banquet. And at that point, QianQiu slices Qi Rong in two. Like, he's just had enough. And I don't think they'll show that in the Donghua because that seems like it's going to be way too gory. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. Maybe they will show it to us. I don't know. But yeah, he slices them in two. And then, again, I know they're not going to show us in the Donghua this exactly, but the visual of Qi Rong, just the two halves of him rolling on the ground being like, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. It's like, that's disturbing, MXTX. That is the most disturbing thing to see two halves of a corpse writhing on the ground yelling that it doesn't hurt a bit. What the fudge? And then Xie Lian, he knew what was going to happen with Qi Rong. And then at that point, he knew what was going to happen. He's like, and then Lan QianQiu picking him up. The moment he turned to the cauldron was like, you burn people in that? I was like, he's going to throw him in the cauldron. And he does. He throws him in it. And Xie Lian, he's against everything that's happening in this moment. And Lan QianQiu, Xie Lian, he's like, I don't approve of this. And QianQiu's like, I just want to make him suffer. And this is the whole Dark Knight bit, right? This is the whole Dark Knight bit because when Qi Rong comes up, he's like, I love that line that he says about QianQiu where he says his wings have hardened. He's like, oh, he was such an angel. Just like you, Xie Lian, but now look at him. His wings have hardened and he's learned to torture. And that part's so hard because Lan QianQiu this whole time has been this like paragon of justice. Like he's like, we're going to do a rightful duel and we'll only do things the straight and narrow, the right, correct way. And Qi Rong broke him. Qi Rong was just like, nope, everything you knew was a lie. Your mentor lied to you all this time to try to protect you like a sweet summer child that you were, but here's what really happened. And he's like, nope. He's like, now, he's like, you're one of us. It's like, we've brought you down to our level, and now you're cruel and torturing people out of revenge. And Qi Rong just gets elated by that. And Xie Lian's just like, because back in the few chapters ago when Lan QianQiu said he didn't want to be like Xie Lian and that he'd never be like him, Xie Lian was like, good, you don't need to be like me. And now it's just all falling on its head. And Hua Cheng let it all happen, right? And Xie Lian says he's nothing like what he once was. And so we come to find out, like the second time they dip Qi Rong up, he's like completely dissolved. Like he's just a mush of bones and mush. He's like not even Qi Rong anymore. He's just completely disfigured and gone and just a green shred in this liquid. And Xie Lian notes how Qi Rong was the one to destroy all of his temples and make the statues. When Xianle fell, he was the one that made all the statues of him that were kneeling and prostrating and went around burning his temples. He led the charge because his idol that he loved was no longer this shining white knight or angel. He'd fallen. Yikes! And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then Xie Lian, he says he just couldn't take it. He said when he found out that it was Qi Rong that was burning all of his temples, and he tried to reason with him and it wasn't going to work, he just couldn't take it anymore, and he ran away. These 500 years, he's like, I just ran away. And that phrase, out of sight, out of mind. That makes a lot more sense with Xie Lian's character. Where he's like, out of sight, out of mind. Because that's what he's been doing. That's what he did with Banyu. Once he like went upstream after he was like killed as General Hua, he left. He was like, out of sight, out of mind. I won't think about Banyu anymore. I'll just move on, scrap collect somewhere else. And that's what he did. And it sucks. And it's awful. It's awful, but it's like Xie Lian, he tried to do something right and it didn't work. And so he tried to mend things and it didn't work. And he tried to just help bring about peace between these two people. And in order to do that, he ended up becoming a murderer. And Lan QianQiu's parents died because of it as well. So it's like, just can't win, right? He just can't win. And so at that point, my notes get really, really bad. And so, and what's interesting here is that, oh my God, my notes are like horrible. He didn't realize that he would find Qi Rong. He didn't realize that he would find Qi Rong in all of this. And Lan QianQiu, I like that at the end of this, after he's like had his revenge moment, it's like, it didn't help. Even though when he was drugged down to their level, it didn't help. It didn't make things better. QianQiu doesn't look like he feels good at all. He just, his head's lowered by the cauldron, and he's like, you can tell he's just not satisfied. And Hua Cheng's like, well, you didn't kill him. He's not dead yet. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot all about the ashes. And Hua Cheng's like, yeah, that was like a clone of him. His ashes are the real ghost. So unless, you destroy that, he's still going to come back. So again, that makes sense. That makes sense why Hua Cheng's like, yeah, 50 years ago I found him and wrecked his realm, but he came back because I couldn't destroy the ashes. So that all makes sense. And Lan QianQiu, he makes a vow. He's like, well, I'm going to find his ashes. And then he looks at Hua Cheng. He's like, I'm going to come for you, and I'm going to come for you, Go Xi. Don't think you can run away, Go Xi. He doesn't acknowledge Xie Lian at all, except as the Go Xi. Oh, that hurts. It's like right in the heart. It hurts. And so Hua Cheng's like, he's just finding out the truth. He's just dealing with it. And Xie Lian has this moment of just hysteria where he's like, why does he need to know the truth? It only hurt him. He's like, why did he need the truth? And I love this little back and forth that Hua Cheng and Xie Lian have. Xie Lian's like, why is the truth important? Why did he have to know? And Hua Cheng's like, well, he needed to know what happened and needed to know what you did and did not do. He's like, he was owed that. He's like, you don't need to keep things from him. He deserves the truth to know what happened, and he can make a decision for himself how he reacts to it. He's like, but you babying him and keeping the truth from him isn't helping anybody. And Xie Lian's like, well, what's the use of the truth? He's like, does that make me any more blameless if I killed less people? And it's like, ugh. And Hua Cheng doesn't really have a response to that. And then Xie Lian, these lines killed me, where he's like, what hardship? He's like, I killed the kind king and the last of my bloodline. So what do I have to be afraid of? And Xie Lian gets a little scary here, because he's just like, Xie Lian's like, well, I can't die. So what does it matter? He's like, what am I afraid of? He's like, I can't die. He's like, I did this. I bring misfortune. Is it better to hate one person or all of them? He's like, I can't die. So what's the worst that can happen to me? I get banished for 800 years and collect scraps. Been doing that. What's it going to hurt to do it 800 more years? He's like, I can't die, so I'm stuck like this forever. So it's kind of, he gets a little bit mad at the fact that he can't die. He's like, I'm just going to suffer endlessly. And it's like, ooh, shoot, Xie Lian. He's like, I would rather take the fall than my country take the fall. He's like, let me take all the responsibility. So him telling Junwu back at the heavenly court, he's like, yes, I caused the banquet. It was me. He took all the blame for himself. And he's like, what's the difference? And then he's like, Long QianQiu thinks everything is all a lie and just empty BS. Now things have gone from bad to worse. And just the image of him slumping to the ground and putting his head between his hands and just like holding his head between his knees and just being so anguished is heartbreaking. But I want to see it in the Donghua. I want to see it in the Donghua so bad, because Xie Lian gets down on his level. He sits down next to him and he's like, hey, he's like, it's okay. He's like, it's fine. And he's like, what a mess. What a disastrous mess. And then Hua Cheng's like, you weren't wrong for what you did. He's like, you tried to do something really noble. He's like, you paid for your actions, but they continued peace. He's like, you were served justice. He's like, yeah, you killed the father of Lan QianQiu, but QianQiu killed you. So he extracted his justice, and you were able to cause hundreds of years of peace and prosperity to kind of stay between these two peoples. He's like, so no, he's like, I would have done the same. No one could have done it better than you. And that's like the first time I think anybody's given Xie Lian like a positive reinforcement. Hua Cheng giving that positive spin, because that's his man and he loves him. But he's like, I would have done the same thing. He's like, you did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with what you did. And Xie Lian, though, saying it wasn't right. He's like, it's not fair that someone... He's like, what is it? He says, it's not someone's kindness to receive such a bad blow. He's like, it's not fair. He's like, even if it was false, he wanted Lan QianQiu to believe that the kindness that he gave would be reciprocated. And we saw in the past chapters that QianQiu was kind of struggling with that, because he was noticing that his kindness wasn't being reciprocated, and now we know why. But Xie Lian was hoping that he would remain hopeful and optimistic, that kindness could be reciprocated, and doing the right thing could open up endless paths. He wants to be optimistic. He wants to be hopeful. He wants to believe in it, but he's been proven wrong so many times that it's just so hard, right? And so he doesn't want anybody else to go through what he did. And it's like, ugh, you innocent bean, you cinnamon bun. It's like, ugh. And so he's like, it's the most ironic thing. The first generations of the Yong'an people were violent and cruel, but there were no tragic deaths. And then Lan QianQiu's parents come along trying to get peace and prosperity a chance, and they suffer a red wedding. And it's like, it's awful. And so Xie Lian, he remembers that line where he says he remembers his father and how his expression was when he died, when he stabbed him with a sword. I'm like, oh my gosh, like he remembers, like he's got some past trauma. There's some PTSD in Xie Lian that he like remembers all these things, and it's no wonder he's tried to block it out in the past, right? But this whole time, Hua Cheng, he's so soft. It's like the softest we've ever seen Hua Cheng being with Xie Lian. Like, he knows Xie Lian is genuinely suffering and is sad and is there to like pat him on the back and offer some reassurance to him. And Xie Lian's like, everything was going so well. He's like, Lan QianQiu's family, they finally were enacting peace with Yongin and Xianle. Everything was going fine. Why did Qi Rong and Anle have to decide at that time to stage a revolution? He's like, that was the worst possible time it could have happened. And then he's like, Anle left him no choice. And that it's so heartbreaking when he describes Anle and how he like was so red with passion, like he was so burning, and he asked Xie Lian to join them in their revenge, and Xie Lian's like, nope. And he realized that nothing he said was going to reach him, so he had to kill him. And in the book, on the last section, there is a difference. There's a difference between the book and the actual translation, between the book translation and the online translation. In the book, it says, but in the end, who was killed, who was murdered. However just the reason, however compelling the reason, the truth was that he killed with his own hands an honorable king who had truly wanted to eradicate discrimination, as well as the last blood descendant of his clan in this world. And the online text has one extra line that says, so he deserved all the blame. So Xie Lian's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's like, I killed the last of my bloodline so that my people could be saved. I killed the king who was the father of this kid that I was a mentor to because it saved my people. So he's like, I had to kill the last of my bloodline to save the people of Yongin. I had to kill the king of Yongin to save the people of Xianle. He's like, either way, I'm a murderer. It's all my fault. It's like, ugh. I just feel so bad for Xie Lian. I'm like, you get why Xie Lian is doing the things that he's doing now, why he's trying to shield people, because he's just like, I've brought all this misfortune. I'm such a bad luck charm. Trying to make amends. And Hua Cheng is like, you need some self-care, my friend. Hua Cheng's like, Xie Lian, you need some self-care, and you need to quit blaming yourself, and you need to quit taking all the blame for yourself and let the truth come out. And people can do with it what they want, but you can't control everything. And it's, And Qi Rong's gone. I feel bad. I am kind of mad that he's gone already. I honestly really like Qi Rong. He's a trash king. He's the worst. But there's something about him in these chapters where he's so unhinged. But there's that little hint of truth hanging there and the layers there that I'm like, okay, all right, I'm here for it. I'm sad that he's gone, but I'm glad he's still alive. I was really worried that QianQiu actually killed him. I was like, no, but no, he's still alive somewhere. I'm sure we haven't seen the last of him. He's going to pop up at somewhere. I am really anticipating at some point in this novel, he's going to pop up around Pei Ming because he hates Pei Ming so much. And now he knows that now he knows that Xie Lian is alive and well and back. So there's that. But at this point, we're still quite a ways from the end of the novel, which is interesting because I figured Qi Rong showing up, he would be the big baddie of this volume, because in the last volume it was all about the little ghosts, the Shangji and the Banyus, and revealing Pei Jr. and revealing little things. And this one we've had our first calamity. And I thought that Qi Rong would take up like down to here, but no. And it seems like we're about to wrap up this arc with Qi Rong being gone. So the question is, where do we go to from here? Where do we go to from here? That's the big question. So yeah, I'm very curious. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you're thinking about all this. These chapters were wild. Just off the wall bonkers. I'm sad Qi Rong's gone already, but we get more with the timeline. We have more with Qi Rong, Hua Cheng, and Xie Lian. It all makes much more sense. And now I don't know where we're going to from here. I haven't decided. I looked, right before I started this, I looked over and saw, I was like, how long are chapters 54 to 55? And 54 to 55, those chapters, just looking at the page numbers, goes from pages 249 to 265. So that's 20 pages. And so it'd be like 40 pages altogether if I did 54 through 57. I don't know what I'll do. I don't know if I'll do 54 and 55 alone or if I will do 56 and 57. I will probably decide during the reaction. If I read chapters 54 and 55 and I'm like, I can keep going, then I'll keep going. But if not, I'll stop there. So we'll see. We'll see. It'll be a surprise for next week. It'll be a surprise how many chapters we're going to get. Although I don't know. I've gotten nearly like an hour and 45 minutes of reaction out of 2 chapters. Or 3 chapters. So we'll see. It'll be a surprise next week. We'll see. And then hopefully, if my internet is back by tomorrow, then I will feel better and will wait until after Halloween before I record the next part. But if my internet is out tomorrow, I may have to record ahead because this is like literally the only reaction I can do where I don't have to get on the internet to record. So we'll see. It'll be a surprise, but we'll find out soon. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week with more Heaven Officials Blessing. Bye.